Check your.
Don't want to bend over too much. Then let's just up there. I'm just looking at myself in the camera. No worries.
She said that there's a filter they're going to put on us to make us look buff. So I'm stunned. I'm just going to stop working out entirely.
Yes, they're going to make you look buff and make me look even skinnier.
I'm just going to hold everything all the time. Well, I am relaxed. You relax. That's how I look all the time.
Exactly. That's how we roll. You're pretty tan though.
I like to get out and walk.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
You're not out tanning. You're not in tan beds.
I'm not a tan guy. No, not a tan bed guy.
But I don't picture
have
Oklahoma being like a sunny place in the middle of winter.
Of all the places, it's pretty sunny.
Okay.
I love it.
All right.
When I moved to like New York, it was like, holy shit, there's not sun half the time, literally.
Right.
It would just depress the hell out of me. So.
And when it was cold, it would be smoggy. So then
Always.
and we're getting in those nasty ass like pollution rays.
Yeah, because in upstate New York, I was close to Lake Ontario, and then you had the mountain effect.
Yeah.
So it was like always raining, and if it's not raining, it's snowing, and if it's not snowing, it's hailing. So
holy shit,
you got all the best of them.
Awesome.
So that's why we do what we do.
Wow.
So what sounds good to work with? What's on your mind?
Jeez. Good question. I think we just talk about, we could talk about, your premise of overcoming adversity and, different topics like that over the years and how that relates to today and how we need to shift the viewpoint of the world like it's a gift as opposed to, it's a burden.
Yeah. I love it.
And shift out of that victim mentality.
Yeah, that's right in my sweet spot.
I know. So we can even talk about your new book.
Sure.
But it's not out yet. We don't want teasers. Do you want teasers?
I'm not afraid to tease about it. I'm not afraid to talk about that coming out or the apparel coming out, or again, all that leads back into the podcast, but I think we can do it in an organic, natural way. So it's not like, and the great thing is since we know each other, our conversation is going to be great. So,
easy.
Yeah.
Well, and my producer is going to take all this and probably do behind the scenes anyways.
That's fine. I'm all about that.
I'm just kind of used to if we're talking, then
we're talking and we're
going. Yeah, it's happening. Thank you for coming out though. I'm so stoked you finally made it.
Thank you for letting me be here. And I love the property. Beautiful 33 acres.
Yes. Yeah.
Every person that we met, when they see you, they're just like light up. They're just excited to be there. And then every single person that was there, like the energy, beautiful, not just beautiful energy, but like energetic. Like everybody, like when we popped in the kitchen, they're already like, they had no clue you were walking around.
No clue.
And we just like come in, fly on the wall. They're getting to work. What day are you on 75 hard? Hey, what day are you on this? What's going on? So that's where leadership, it's a testament to what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you were saying that you've been on that property for a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This year's 25 years.
Right.
That's crazy.
How many people have come through your program since then?
In 25 years?
Yeah. Guesstimation.
I'm going to say 4,000 people, maybe
4,000 people, 4,000 lives saved.
Yeah, at least. Well, and then if you exponential like their sphere of influence around them by 5 people,
there it is.
I mean, it's huge.
20,000.
Yeah. All the graduations we've seen up there, all the staff we've had that have helped clients. It's pretty remarkable.
Everybody talks about changing the world, but they don't want to change themselves. We were talking about Robert Greene, and the 33 laws of or strategies of war. The very last line in there, he makes this comment about, it's a monk that's talking about it in the 1100, but he says, I tried to change the world. I couldn't do it. I tried to change my friends. I couldn't do it. I tried to change my family. I couldn't do it. Realizing I had to change myself. And now that he's older, he is changing himself, which vicariously allows him to change the people around him, his family, and that has a chance of changing the world. So taking that ownership, taking that accountability, taking agency in everything that we're doing, that's the key. But so many times now, I'll go off on a tangent. AI.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about the potential of what it can do for business, but also I fear what it can do and the impact it's going to make on us as a society in the next 1 to 5 years. Right now, people aren't even connecting on a human level, let alone connecting to themselves. And for better or for worse, technology is sort of the root of that. And now that this is coming into play, it's going to encourage people to be even more divisive, to not try to get out and do anything, to not go for a walk like we did in that beautiful forest, to get sun, to have conversations, to engage in a way that's actually meaningful.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that that's going to be something that's going to be even more detrimental. So all the mental health issues that we see, all the lack of resilience that we see, all the physical issues that we see are only going to continue to get in that place, because there's going to be no reason to go out of your house. I can just order the food, have it sent to me. I understand AI for certain things that don't need a human component. You can do that. But the things that need it, we need to double, triple, quadruple down on even now. So again, presence, being mindful, real gratitude, not the fake bullshit gratitude that people are doing.
Yeah.
The real thing. And gratitude is a verb. So we have to actually begin to execute on those things consistently, right?
Yeah. Well, and even just learning, like what I noticed, and I was like, damn, this AI is kind of amazing. Like you can make it sound exactly like you.
Yeah.
So where is original thought even going to originate for anymore? It's not, because I can plug in a question to AI, sound like a 51-year-old entrepreneur female, and it sounds just like me. I'm like, holy crap. Like there is not going to be even, you could become so lazy, you don't even have to think for yourself anymore. It will literally do that for you as well.
And so my second book, Octanon Verb, is going to be coming out this year.
Yeah.
And when I talked to the studio about booking time, they were like, hey, great news. We got this new AI program. I was like, okay. They said, you just have to read the first 5 pages of your book, and then you can walk out and AI will do the rest for you.
What?
And I said, get the hell out of here. And they were like, no, this is what it'll do for you. And it'll save you time. And I was like, I'm not doing that.
Oh, that's creepy.
And they couldn't believe it.
There's just like no limit to how creepy it gets.
That's
right?
what it is. And they were saying, like, even the inflections in my voice, they
Yep.
said it can imitate that.
Yeah.
And I said, so now when I put out my book, I'm going to actually say in the beginning, there was no AI in this whatsoever. I did not bounce any ideas off of it. This is just from stupid human error, learning and passing it on to other people that want to learn. So even during because that's what they were saying, it's going to cost you more money. It's going to cost you more time. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be, in my opinion, the thing that really helps differentiate the original thought that comes out. We already see with social media now where people are essentially just mimicking each other. They memorize something, they regurgitate it in a different way. But
yeah. Or they just have virtual assistants that are just coming up with stuff and saying it's them, or whatever.
That's it. Yeah. And you can scale certain things, but the human experience, the human touch, the human connection, you cannot. And we desperately try to attempt it with social media, with groups, with all these different things. But at the end of the day, that's not going to be nearly the same thing. And just trying to pump out more AI to do that, it's not going to serve us.
No, I was actually recently at a conference, the one I went to in Atlanta, and I think it was Gary Brecka. I have to look back on it, but he was saying, there's different emotions. And like most people, you say, well, what do you think is the highest emotion? And most people are going to say, love.
Right.
That is the highest emotion. He says, actually, and it's you can prove it on a scientific scale. The one thing that people resonate with more than love is genuineness.
Yeah.
So going along with what you're saying, hopefully, if we continue to just be ourselves and speak as ourselves, it'll vibrate at a higher level than all this AI, which is going to speak at a really good level, but it's not always going to resonate because it's not in that genuine vibration.
Well, it's just like music, right?
Yeah.
Like we can tell when something's overproduced. It's very smooth, it's vanilla, it's bullshit. And we need it to be something that is, again, social distortion doesn't care.
Unless it's Vanilla Ice.
Or unless it's Vanilla Ice. And then that's absolutely fine. You're really leaning into that. That's the goal. But with the other things, they want to hear that. And again, Andy Frisella, Ed Milet telling us, the authenticity, the imperfection is what we need to really focus on, because even me, my story, even the book, even the TEDx, all those things, I didn't try to use it as like a leverage. I just said, listen, this is my story. This is what I can speak about. I don't feel comfortable speaking about other things and claiming I'm an expert in it because I didn't experience it. I didn't live it.
Right.
And there are a lot of authors that can do that. It's very cookie cutter. Go get this famous person's example, now pull lessons from it. That's fine. But anybody can do that if we're willing to do the work. But to actually go out and live life like you have, like I have, and now come back and say, okay, this sounds great, but this is flowery bullshit. This is the stuff that works, and this is where you have to get to before it will actually impact you the way it's supposed to.
Right. Well, and that's where nothing replaces experience. You can regurgitate all these books and people you've seen speak and everything else, but nothing is going to give you more validity than the experience of having lived it.
And it will come out in our authentic voice if we do it correctly. But if we're having AI do it, and people can feel like, even if they can't put their finger on it, the end result they can tell. They will understand. And a soundbite is fine. I get that. But at the same time, leading up to it, giving it context, giving it gravity, giving it real emotion from experience, that's everything.
Yeah.
And if we don't have that, human beings will continue to be disconnected. And then my fear again with AI is that what becomes preference is what we are accustomed to, which means if AI is out there the most, now that's what the preference will become.
Right.
And now all of a sudden they don't want that deeper level. All of a sudden they just want this like superficial BS. And that's not going to say the problems, like it's not going to help them solve the problems that they're in. And it's not going to give them any, dare I say, hope in the future, other than just this existence, this mundane idea of Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I hate the weekends. I mean, I love the weekends. I hate Mondays.
Yeah.
Make it on social media and bitch and complain about it. And then when that continues to perpetuate, also with AI, we understand. So Jordan Peterson's daughter,
she's awesome.
She's incredible, right?
She's awesome,
and she tried to, she's like, put something into AI and say, make it sound like Jordan Peterson. It was like, we will not do that because it's hate speech. Right. So the people,
it is very one-sided. I've tried certain things like that as well.
That's it. So what do we see? The people that are controlling media,
Yes.
social media, a lot of these things, all these parent companies, they're going to hammer down on that. So again, in a lot of ways, it's in our best interest, especially for real, to cut through that bullshit, get down even deeper, even more vulnerable, even more honest. I got to listen to Ryan Holiday speak last night, and Robert Greene was supposed to be there, but he was sick. He was ill. But again, speaking from that very authentic voice, that's the key. Make yourself so vulnerable. Like, I'm not perfect.
Right.
And somebody asked him, they were like, you write all these books on stoicism, you know, how do you do that? He's like, well, I can write them. Doesn't mean I practice them, or doesn't mean I do them well. So just like meditation, it's a practice. Just like philosophy, it's a practice. Just like working out or martial arts, it's a practice.
Yeah.
And right now, if AI makes it easy for us to not have to do the work to give us this facsimile of what it would feel like, this experience, then now we're in a place where there is no place for people to go above that. They're just kind of stuck in this level, and they just want to find some other things to occupy their time, some other distraction.
Right. Well, and what I'm hearing is there goes critical thinking. Like
Absolutely.
Nobody will even know how to think for themselves. Like, well, I don't know AI. How should I do this? And AI will say, do it like this. You're like, okay. Like now, you know, we've already, because of YouTube and other things, can pretty much solve any problem, but you throw this in and then there goes all critical thinking. And then gosh forbid, if something happens to somebody out there in the real world without this tool,
right?
How are they going to survive? Whatever situation comes up, how are they going to overcome adversity?
They're not, because AI will tell them.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I'm at my lowest level ever.
Yeah.
Like, this is my ground zero. Like, this is the point where don't want to even live anymore. And AI can give you all these other things, but it's not going to give you exactly what you need. The other scary thing to me is this understanding that until we actually see that for what it is, it's going to continually just be this like easy short-term answer that's not going to give us anything long-term. And then again, we just go into this cycle again with adversity. The great thing about adversity and the bad thing about adversity is it gives you no other choice.
Right.
So the great thing is, if you're at your lowest point, again, the people that come into your program, they're at a place where they realize, I'm going to die if I don't change my ways. This is going to own my entire life. And they forces them to actually step into that accountability. And what you guys are doing with mindfulness and working out and CrossFit and the gym, and giving them all these different experiences so that now they can really understand that they were just living at this very small level before. And now they're really starting to look at what those levels are. And then the way that you're continuing to just grow, the way that you're continuing to grow. No, you were subtle like a heart attack, Angie. That was awesome. You're not.
You think I'd be good at that shit?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
over there scribbling. And I'm like, what the fuck is she
What is
writing
she
on
saying?
this paper, tearing and scribbling? I'm like, holy fuck, there's like a novel going on over here. I
What's
don't know
going on
about.
over there?
Apparently my mic wasn't in front of my face.
No, you're okay.
You're
There you
good.
go.
No, I just want, yeah, it's just gets, because
No,
we
it's
go
good.
over and yours is fine.
Yours perfect. Mine was to the side.
Can't take this woman anywhere.
Oh shit. Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
Next
But-
time, April, just say, Angie, get in front of your mic. That's why we have editing.
Okay.
You're good, and we'll do it now. We're fine. But that's the thing with your program, with what you guys are doing. You're giving them all these other ideas, showing them there's much more that we can do to have this experience. There's a lot of things that we can do to control what that is, as opposed to having this external substance control it for us. And that goes back to what we're talking about again. We get it backwards. We always think, okay, this is out of my control and I'll let it go. But that's an easy out for many of us. When in actuality, the things that we think are out of our control, many times, if we actually are just honest, it probably is within our control. So again, I can't control the way you think. I can't control what you're going to do, but I can absolutely control what I'm doing.
Right.
And if I want any semblance of a chance to influence anybody as a leader, I have to do the hard thing. I have to make the courageous decision. I have to lean into it. And that's why adversity is a gift, because it forces us to level up. It forces us to be in that place where it's like, it's shining this bright light on all my weaknesses.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that we feel that we call adversity is actually just the fact that we haven't been able to face it or take accountability for it or begin to actually correct the behavior. And so we kick the can down the road. But when it comes back the next time, the greater the weight, the greater the weight. The greater that we wait to face the adversity, the greater that weight of that adversity is once we're in it. And that's what gets us stuck. And all of a sudden now it seems insurmountable because we aren't even willing to try. We were talking before about the decision to execute versus the actual execution, right? So some people, if they're in a business or trying to change their lives, get in better shape, 75 hard, whatever it is, they think that they get the difference they can't have. They don't understand, I have to make this decision and then I have to execute on it. But when they think about changing, they think of them together. But like we were talking about before, once you decide and you're committed, now the execution, it's inevitable. You have to do it. But if you're in a place where you're thinking, well, if I make this decision, for example, if you have an employee and you're making a decision that it's time for them to leave, but you just go around in circles for a while in the process, now you're wasting time. Now it's affecting the rest of your leadership, the rest of your company, your customers,
The whole team. Yeah.
the entire team, and they see it, they're watching it. But when you decide this person needs to go, now you can take a breath. Now you realize, okay, well, and again, the way you feel after the decision tells you if it's the right thing to do or not.
For sure.
So what we were talking about before, that's what we find.
Well, and I get surprised so many people get stuck in the paralysis by analysis. Like they overanalyze everything to the point of they're just miserable. They can't sleep. It's weighing on me. And it's like, just make a decision. And then even for a lot of people, once they make that decision, I know I got to do it. I don't want to do it. Then they get stuck in that spot. But once they actually take the action, then it's like, okay, now we can move on, good or bad, deal with what comes up. But yeah, it's amazing to me how many people get stuck in not wanting to do one or both of those steps.
It's almost like a fight.
Yeah.
For most people that know how to fight, the actual fight is not hard, but knowing when to actually take action is.
Yeah.
So again, if we're walking down the street and I see somebody that crosses the street to come towards me, or there's a group of people, my instinct is usually correct, which is I either need to step back, maybe change my direction, maybe cross the street myself. But if the person comes up to me now, they disarm me verbally and say, hey, do you have $1? Or hey, do you know what time it is? That's just trying to get me off track of what they're doing. Or maybe their buddy is sneaking up behind me and he's got a baseball bat or whatever. So if you're one step behind in a fight, you're actually 2 or 3. So you have to make the decision to begin to execute as soon as you understand that you're in danger. It's the same thing with leadership, same thing with your business, same thing with taking accountability and agency with yourself. There's a gentleman that I met at that event last night. He's a doctor, and he was saying that the hardest thing that he deals with is people understanding how dangerous their situation is because they just want a medication to do the work for them.
Yep.
Also, they don't want to take any like ownership or agency of the fact that he's like, why do you his simple answer was, why don't you take what you eat and cut it in half, and whatever exercise you're doing, double it. So double one and half the other. And that
Easy
way,
solution.
exactly. He's like, this is applicable. You can do this now. But they don't want to even do that. They don't want to even take into consideration how many calories they have, how much sugar's in that Coca-Cola, how much other stuff is in the stuff that they're ingesting in their body that they're not even aware of. And that puts them in a place where now that victim mentality.
Yeah.
And as we were discussing before, the victim mentality is actually the most selfish mentality out there, because it forces the people around you to endure you complaining, bitching, and moaning all the time. So you get the attention like a child.
Which means you're getting that oxytocin and the feel goods for getting, acknowledging your communication,
That's
bad or
it.
ugly.
And it encourages the behavior.
Right.
And like you said, even a child that acts out, good attention, bad attention, it doesn't matter. It's still attention.
Yep.
And now what does that do? They perpetuate that. They love seeking out chaos. They love gossip. They love all this other bullshit that does not serve them, because it's an opportunity for them to just wallow in it without taking any sort of action to change it. And then they paint themselves into a corner. And now no matter what happens, even when they do want to change genuinely, they surround themselves with people that will not let them change, or they allow that fear of what people are thinking to stop them from actually beginning to do what's best for them.
It's interesting to look at it this way because, growing up as I did with the drug addicts and that sort of thing, like they were known for being manipulative, but this is a much different, not maybe much different, maybe it's the exact kind of same manipulation, but it's from your average kind of person, but they still have that same mechanism that creates that.
Yeah. And what they don't seem to understand is once that happens, now it's impossible for them to change anything else.
Right.
And then what do we do? Like, if you hear a person that's complaining all the time, you just kind of shut them out, you leave them alone, or they attract more people around them that encourage the behavior because they're in the same place.
Yeah.
They say that we're the average of the 5 people that we're around.
Mm.
It's actually the 5 emotions that those people evoke from us that is actually the biggest influence.
Mm.
So if you have 5 people like us that are in arete or around these great people, it forces us to elevate because everybody's driven, everybody's motivated, everybody's disciplined, everybody's trying to get better. Accountable. And that makes you want to do that.
Yeah.
But if you're around people that are just doing enough to get by, they're bitching about everything, they're not trying to better themselves, and they're just default pessimistic, then that's what you will be as well.
Yeah.
So understanding that changes everything if you're able to do it. And the good thing about social media, or the good thing about the internet now, is you can choose what that is. If you don't like what you're seeing on social media, change your algorithm by actually finding the stuff that you want, or blocking or unsubscribing or unfollowing, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But once you do that, now it will start to serve you in a way. We have to use it and not let it use us, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, which is tricky because that's exactly how social media can work against you as well. Because you type in enough of the negative shit and that's all you get bombarded with. It 100% agrees with you.
Yeah.
You're right. Here you go. Here, let me serve you up everything that confirms what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
And so it's tricky because it'll give you whatever it is you're looking for. And it usually doesn't give you the opposite unless it's trying to invoke you into anger or different things like that.
There's a story in The Gift of Adversity. I talk about my great uncle who took me hunting. And I'm 12 years old and we're going out and it's like cold, wet, rainy. It's actually snowing. We go deer hunting. We're walking out to the blind. I'm cold. I'm shivering. Like, it's the coldest, most miserable I've ever been. We're finally in there. Got like the hot tea. I've got my hot tea in a thermos. He's got his hot coffee in a thermos. And I'm trying desperately to drink it. And I'm pouring it on myself because I'm shaking so bad. He looks down at me and he's like, "Boy, are you cold?" I look up at him and he's just like this stoic statue, just like looking at the tree line, sipping his coffee, not saying anything. I'm like, "I'm cold, but aren't you cold, Uncle?" And he's like, "I am, but I'm going to give you a secret." And he says, "Do you think the cold cares about you?" Even at 12, I was like, "Probably not."
Yeah.
And he says, "Yeah, so you shouldn't care about it." He says, "What you're focused on is the hardship, the cold.
Yeah.
What you should be focused on is the purpose, the hunt. If all you focus on is the hardship, that's all you're going to find. And now if we do happen to see a deer, you're already a step behind. You're already cold. And now if you have to raise your weapon and try to shoulder it, You're probably going to jerk the shot, you're going to miss. And all the adversity that we went through right now will be for naught. It's wasted.
Mm.
But if you can at least think about why we're here, look at the opportunity, look at the hunt, look at the purpose. Now you'll be looking on the wood line. Now, if there is a deer, you're already ready, you're already prepared. And now you will have a ghost of a chance to actually do the right thing and actually squeeze the trigger and shoot true. So you have to decide, what will you focus on? And again, social media does that. It rewards us with whatever we want more of.
Yeah.
And again, we had to be very careful about what that is.
Would you say that event like altered you as a person from that point forward, even at 12 years old?
It did. That's when I understood what the gift of adversity was.
Yeah.
He also had urgency behind it, because he said, listen, if you're cold, we can go back to the fireplace and we can have hot chocolate and, cookies. He said, but we're already out here. We've already paid the price.
Yep.
Why don't we see what happens? And then right before I about answer, he says, listen, the opportunities to hunt are limited. The fireplace will always be there. It's a sure thing.
Yeah.
So in our lives, the opportunities to hunt, meaning to go out and do that thing, to go out and create that business, to go out and have that conversation, to get this person out of our lives, those opportunities are limited. Safety is an illusion anyway. So why are we so concerned with this idea of what safety may be, when in actuality, when everybody else is like cowering in fear in the corner in the face of adversity, if we can be bold and move forward, it's actually not only the most courageous thing, but it's the most advantageous thing. And when you get used to being around it so often,
yeah,
chaos becomes your advantage. In the military, that was our whole thing. It was like the unwanting being, put in this place where you can't do anything other than make the best of the moment. If you look at war, if you look at 10th Mountain Light Infantry, like that was their whole reputation, was this idea of, listen, we're outgunned, we shouldn't be there, like Black Hawk Down, but they sent us in afterwards, after Delta, after Special Forces, after all these guys are down. We shouldn't make it in. We shouldn't be able to get through that. But yet you do, because you understand that's what you're bred for. Your brothers are out there dying. They're taking contact. If you don't do something, nobody else will. And that's where this accountability comes in. Stop waiting for somebody to come save you. Stop hesitating. Stop compromising. Start taking action yourself, because people will want to help you. But if you are actually doing the work, they are much more willing to help you. Chris Rock uses that analogy when he's talking about when he was, his car was broken down.
Yeah.
And he was like, if I just sit there and have my hazards on, waving people down, it doesn't happen. But the minute he got out, started pushing the vehicle, people will stop because they see that he's actually doing something.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are wanting somebody to solve the problem for you, wanting to put it on a silver platter, anybody that's successful, Andy Frisella, Robert Greene, Ed Milet, they know from the moment that they talk to you if you're actually doing the work. They know if you're actually willing to continue to do it, because they don't want somebody else that's going to be a sycophant. They want somebody that's actually doing the work. And maybe then they understand that any advice they give you, you may actually put into play. But if you're just somebody else that's like, hey, I'm stuck in this situation, they probably know that you're not going to do the work anyway. So, they can give you a little bit of sympathy. But at the end of the day, nobody's coming to save us. We have to do it on our own.
Oh, I know that. I've learned that one a million times over.
Yeah.
It's funny, as you were talking, I was thinking about, I just came back from a conference in Virginia, and I was telling you about this. And, we're in the gym working out, and man, I didn't want to get up at 6 a.m. and go work out. I'd come in super late the night before, but I'm like, I'm going to do it. Finally, there's people to work out with. I just need to go do this. And they were kind of giving me heck because I'm a CrossFitter and I'm in a Globo gym and I don't know how to do bicep curls and these other things. And then they're finally like, okay, so here's the last exercise. You're going to firemen carry, we're going to pair you guys up, firemen carry each other across the, in little sprints. And I was the only girl working out. And so the guy that was sort of equivalent in height, he's super strong. He's like, dude, I'm like 200 pounds. Like, you're not gonna lift me up. And I was like, yeah, I know I'm kind of tired. I'm feeling a little weak. And they're like, you're right. No, go get Paula. You can lift her. And then I was like, wait, now are you saying I can't do it? That's the best way to get me to do anything is keep me out. And then I'm like, wait, what? No, I don't want that fucking out. And I got his hands in a correct position because, he was on my back. And Yeah, 200 pounds. And I went across the floor, double sprinted it. He's like, I can't even believe you do that. I actually felt your legs almost buckle underneath me, but you stood in there and just made it happen. But again, that's the adversity that you get to a point in a weird place like you get to, where it's almost like, if it's left up to me, I'll be like, yeah, I could talk myself out of it. But the second you tell me I can't do it or shouldn't do it, I'm like, wait a minute, now I'm going to do it. I love being challenged.
And that's everything. Like, if you're stuck in something right now and you're not sure what to do, understand that the answer that you seek is found in the adversity that you're not like facing right now. Whatever you're avoiding, that's the answer.
Yeah.
So if we're complaining about not getting a date or complaining about not having enough of this or enough of that, like, step back, be real honest and say, no bullshit. How am I actually beginning to do the work on this? Because many times we're not.
Right.
We just like to be in that cycle. There's the 5 stages of acceptance, right? There's like denial, anger, bargaining. Eventually we get to the place of depression, and then we finally break down into acceptance. But many times we want to avoid that as much as we can. And adversity is one of the things we always try to avoid. That conversation, that, hiring that team, letting this person go, whatever it is. But within all those things, we understand until we are willing to face that, we're going to be stuck in the same place. And I've never met a strong person that hasn't gone through adversity.
Right.
There's usually a direct correlation to how much adversity they've gone through, how much they're able to grow from it, and then they lean into it. The idea is, we talk about this a lot, the adversity scale. Like, for all of us, there's a 10, the worst thing we've ever been through.
Yeah.
And this can be physically, but it can also be emotionally, can be spiritually, can be financially. And so a lot of times people are like, I'm going through this thing. What do I do? I say detach, which is the Jocko thing, but it's more about this idea of, if I can put it on a piece of paper and just make a little L and say, no bullshit, where am I on this? For me, my 10 is dying on the table and being paralyzed. So any workout I'm about to do, if I say, okay, is it going to be up here? Probably not.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I can understand where it is. We build it up to be worse than what it is in our minds. Our perception of it always is. And once we get through it, we look back, it's like, 1, that wasn't as hard as I thought it'd be. And then 2 is, why the hell have I been holding myself back this whole time?
Yeah. Or it was hard as fucking hell, way worse than I thought. But look, I overcame that.
That's it.
And I think, like, what happens with me a lot is like, yeah, that was almost as bad as it gets, but damn, I'm still standing.
And you leveled up, right? You went from it.
Yeah.
And in infantry school, I went through infantry school in 2011 when it was still challenging.
You saying they've lessened the standards?
Are
we not saying that?
I can say it, because at that point, like, I heard about guys that would get out afterwards and like, smoking somebody means you would just take them outside and, break them off. You just make them do burpees until people were puking, or you're doing jumping jacks in the snow just until whenever. But they weren't allowed to do that because that was not, good training, allegedly. And I know that they're different, old school, new school. Every new generation that comes up thinks that the generation before them had it easy.
Yeah.
They always do.
And it's almost the opposite, though, wouldn't you say?
Right.
Yeah.
It's actually like, no, they actually had to go through a lot more. So I imagine what my great uncle did to get through infantry school compared to what I had to do. Like, they were saying that when they would low crawl, the drill sergeant would stand over you with a bayonet, like right above your butt cheek. And if you brought your ass up even a little bit, you put it right back down.
Yeah.
But again, that's the best way to learn. For better or for worse, pain, discomfort are the best teachers.
Yeah.
But seeing what we were going through at the time, it's like, man, it felt pretty intense. At that point, the main thing was, I understood that until I just accepted the fact that this was going to be hard, until I just made peace with the idea that this is what it was going to be, I just put myself in that drill sergeant's hands. And then if he said burpee, I was the first one down. And there's the guys around you that are like, MFing this guy. It's like, this is stupid and I hate it. And they're literally making it harder on themselves than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Because the whole time you're bitching and moaning, complaining, why are we doing this? And this is stupid. You're not allowing your body to do what it needs to do. And now you're actually hitting the emergency brake when you're trying to hit the gas to get up this hill. And once you're through the adversity, all the hardship that you went through to get there, it feels almost irrelevant once you've achieved the goal. The other thing is understanding this idea that no matter what we're doing, there's always going to be something that we're not prepared for, no matter how well prepared we are for it. And in that moment, when it feels like this is more than I thought it was going to be, I bit off more than I can chew.
Yeah.
In that moment, you still have a decision. You can choose. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. This is the worst thing I've ever gone through. What am I going to do? If I capitulate now, again, what happens? Once we decide to quit, that bleeds over to everything else that we do. And for most of us, if we give up at the first sign of adversity, we are conditioning ourselves to quit when we should be fighting the hardest. And you never know how close you are to the tide turning. You never know what is the last thread that if you would just keep pulling, you could get there. But the thing that is guaranteed is when you quit, you fail.
Yeah. Yeah. I called my grandma just a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, things are like this or that. And I'm like, you got any advice? I mean, she's 94 years old. She's got to have some advice. She's lived through some massive adversity in her life to still be alive, her and my grandpa at 94 years old. And she just said, Angie, it's always darkest before the light. And I'm like, there you go. I'm like, but is it the darkest now? It feels pretty dark. Or is it going to get darker? You know, can we tell me that much? But, you know, it's just like, it's simple, but it's true. And a lot of times, and for me especially, I've got to hit the very depths before I can bounce off the bottom, which I do want to try to figure out so I don't keep doing this, but it's what happens. But I know from experience that it always comes back as long as I persist and I keep going through it and I do what I have to do and I don't let myself quit.
The other thing with adversity is understanding this notion that the idea is that it's going to force me to get better, but also understanding, like Stephen Pressfield, when I had him on my podcast, his intro that he sent me was Stephen Pressfield was a abject failure as a writer for 27 years before his first book came out when he was 54. So the idea is to just keep going. And lots of times when we're going through it, we question, why is this happening? Why this isn't making any sense? I'm a good person. Because I went through all that when I was paralyzed, when I was injured.
Yeah.
And I also realized, first of all, when you're going through hardship, there is no answer that I could possibly give you that's going to be enough to justify what you're suffering with. It's just not.
Yeah.
Until you're beyond it. The other thing is, adversity has no meaning except for the one that you give it. So if I'm going through hardship and I say, this is making me better, then I will find more. I will endure more. But if I say, this is stupid, I didn't want to do it in the first place, now what am I doing? I'm encouraging my own cognitive bias. I'm encouraging myself to go out and do that. And then all of a sudden that becomes easier and easier and easier. And for any of us right now, like, we don't know how much time and energy that we have.
Yeah.
We assume that we're going to have all the time in the world, not the energy in the world, but we don't. And the opportunities to do what we want to do are fleeting. We're all moving towards this end time of our lives or whatever it is. But for many of us, again, even in the entrepreneurial space, we assume that we will always have, like, even in our 90s, that we'll be able to be doing entrepreneurial stuff. We may not. We have to attack it with this intention of saying, listen, what's the Peter Drucker, right? What's my 5-year goal or my 10-year goal? How can I get there in 6 months? That gives us that urgency and helps us be really, really honest about what it is. And we cut away all the bullshit. And you're doing a great job like that. You're going through all this stuff and you're realizing, this is not serving me. I'm letting this go. This is not doing what it needs to be doing. I'm letting this go.
Yeah.
And when you let go of it, it allows you to have that space. And now you have this true perspective to be very honest. Yeah. And until we get to that place, we're just going to keep repeating the same damn thing and have the audacity to be surprised when we keep getting it.
I love that. And it's just being willing to be uncomfortable. You know, I think I hang on to a lot of stuff because it's just comfortable and it's easy, and change requires some level of discomfort or things to not know what the result is going to be. And so, yeah, definitely for me, like there's been a lot of letting go of unnecessary stuff. And then it's become very cathartic. It's like, oh, why didn't I do that a long time ago? Holy crap. I thought I needed all this stuff. I didn't need any of it. Look at that.
And like you said, the whole like physical analogy, I'm holding on to all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, even if I see something good, well, I can't, I have to hold on to this stuff. No, let that stuff go. And now you can actually pick up stuff that will serve you. And listen, if you're 20, you'll get to a point where certain things will serve you. But as you grow and evolve, you understand that what worked for me at 20 may not work when I'm 30. may not be
For
necessary.
sure it won't
right?
work for you. Or 40 and then go on to 50. It's like we have to constantly keep, in my mind, keep growing and learning and changing, or else you know, you're that person wearing the mom jeans, you know, 30 years past the point. It's like you gotta change with the times.
That's it.
No offense to anybody wearing mom jeans. It's
No, I'll
actually
say
very
it.
cool for the young girls to wear it. But like my daughter's like, Mom, why don't you wear mom jeans? I'm like, because I'm a mom. Like I
'Cause
can't get away with that like you can. You're like 19, or she's like 20 now, but yeah 22.
And that's the part of it where Bruce Lee's protege, Guru Santo, I'm a student of his, and he says, Marcus, the body you have at 20 is not the body you'll have when you're 30.
Yeah.
So doing running, jumping, flying kicks in my 20s, 30s, and even 40s, like I could do that. But after I got injured, I realized I have to learn these other skills. I have to be better with a weapon. I have to be better with close quarters, because I don't have the luxury of spending a lot of time in the fight. I need to finish it now. It needs to be direct, and doesn't need to be this 1, 2, 3 steps. It needs to be one step right now, or avoid it entirely if I can.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that shows us again the thinking, as opposed to thinking, oh, it's going to be like this fight scene in a movie. It's like, no, it's not like that. Most fights happen so quickly, and it's usually one punch, and it's usually an ambush. Just like with even with gunfighting, right? Most encounters with a pistol are between 0 and 6 feet, and it's one bullet. So everybody's out there at the gun range shooting at 25 meters and doing all these other things and doing all this like high speed, you know, magazine changes and stuff. And it's like, no, you just need to be able to draw your weapon effectively from this position, not let the other person get it, and at least get a round off. But that's not nearly as exciting or enticing as running, going up, doing a battle roll, do a magazine change, and then, you know, shooting 100 rounds into this thing.
Well, that is way cooler though.
It's so much cooler. I mean, I agree.
And how effective is it holding a gun to the side like this?
Oh, I absolutely recommend it, but only if you don't want it to actually be accurate.
Yeah.
Or jam on
Good
you.
old movies, boy. They really teach you how to not do things.
How to not do things. Yeah. Also make sure you hold underneath the weapon. I don't want you to support it. I want you to, the teacup, and now you can't. Yeah. There's a million things that we see. When I'm watching TV, it's like I just have to shut off everything. I'm like, okay, this is a movie.
Yeah. Except for The Matrix. That one, that bends your mind in a good way.
Yeah,
you're like,
it does. It's like these guys actually trained. Or the John Wick stuff. It's like, okay, that stuff's
good
legit.
show too. Yeah,
That's
we
incredible.
love that. So where do I stand on your scale of people that you mentor? Because the reason you're here, you know, you were one of the very first people I met in Arte. I actually sought you out after I saw you speak and said, hey, I need a hard mindset business mentor, personal coach kind of thing. Am I pretty coachable?
Oh my God, you were so coachable. Yes. You take everything that I say, even when I challenge you, even when I'm pushing you, even when you win and I'm like, yeah, but what could we have done better?
Yeah. You
take it really, really well. And then you're a hard charger.
Yeah. So
many times, what am I doing? I'm having to pull you back.
Yeah.
I'm forcing you to take space. I'm forcing you to give yourself a little bit more credit. And that's the journey that you've had, where the answer you thought was always to push harder.
Yeah.
But God, look at you now, where you're like, actually, I think having some space is key here. Having this ability to adapt is everything. We keep thinking that we talked about information before, right? If more information was the answer, then everybody would have a six-pack and be multi-billionaires, and that's not the case. So you're actually taking action on the most important things. You're making the priority the priority. If everything's a priority, then nothing's a priority. And now with that kind of focus, you're like, you have this laser-like aggression towards what you want. And if something's in your way, it doesn't matter, you're going to go through it. But you're learning now what is actually worthy of that kind of intention,
right?
Energy.
Yeah.
And now it's amazing what happens when we're doing that. So I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I really wasn't setting you up just to compliment me, but I do appreciate it. But I mean,
I thought you were fishing, Angie. You're like, oh, no.
Compliment, Marcus. Tell me how great I am. No, definitely not. You know what I really think a big part that you've helped me with is giving myself grace, because I've always expected you know, it's just, you know, being the boss, being in my position, I just always expected it. And when I would fail or things wouldn't go right, I would be very hard on myself. And you've really taught me grace. And I think that's something that I've been working with a lot of other people on as well, because I notice there's a lot of people with the same mindset and they're beating themselves up over stuff. And I'm like, hey, you just broke up with that girl. I get it. It was only a year, but give yourself some grace. Allow yourself a few days to wallow in that. Let yourself experience that grief and just sit with it. And then after a week, put it aside the bitch voice, say, I'm done with this, and just move forward. But like, give yourself that grace to be okay with that. And that goes a long way with people, because a lot of people are like me.
A lot of times also people like you, like what you're describing, will give grace to everybody else.
Right.
But not me. No, I don't need it. I'm the boss. I'm the badass.
Yeah.
And if we do that enough times, what are we doing? One, we're telling everybody else that it's okay for them to have the grace. But if we don't give it to ourselves, they're watching us.
Yeah.
They know. So then if we're telling them, hey, give yourself grace, and they're like, you're not.
Yeah.
They may not have the courage to say that. Right. So if it's an employee or somebody close to us or somebody on our team or a leadership person, and we're not doing it, then we're a hypocrite just as bad as whenever somebody else is a leader and say, you guys work harder and they're not doing the work either.
Yeah.
Right. So hypocrisy goes many different directions, but understand that you have to establish a fucking standard and then you maintain the fucking standard no matter what.
Yeah.
Sometimes that standard needs to be what we know that we can do consistently. And then on the days that we actually crush it and go above and beyond, great. But on those days when it is tough, we still have to get there. And that's what gives us this ability, again, this understanding that you can be grateful and you can still be driven. You can be incredibly successful and still have humility. Everybody seems to think it's either or. Either you're on one side where it's like it's all Brene Brown all day, or it's people that are yelling in your face saying, go harder.
Yeah.
And the reality is in this life, it's going to be in between there.
Yep.
And you have to have the capacity to know what to do at the right time. And again, that pragmatic empathy, the ability to have empathy for other people to feel what they need, but more importantly, to give ourselves that and say, okay, I fell down on that. Yeah. And I actually did everything that I possibly could. When we're really honest, we do the best that we can, and we still fall down. That's when we actually have to give ourselves grace and exercise that aggressive patience that Andy taught us.
Yeah.
Lots of times they get it backwards. Tom Bilyeu, I love it. He's like, patience will be the fucking death of you. So the idea is to do everything that you possibly can, to do the work, to work hard, to push, to get the best people around you, to make the best plan with the incomplete information that we have. And then if it still fails, just say, okay, what did we learn? Are we going to keep going with this? That's where the aggressive patient comes in.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're saying, I'm going to be patient, and you start from that place, now what do? You subconsciously hold back. Now you're not actually asking yourself, no bullshit, what does this take? Now you're not asking the questions like, how do I get to the 10 years goals in 6 months? You're not asking the questions of, it's 2 years from now and my business failed, what happened?
Yeah,
because
you get reasonable.
That's it.
You're just like, oh, it's going to happen or it won't, or it's okay.
That's it. And what is that? That's a glorified mindset of the victim.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why we're so drawn to Arte, because it's the opposite. But I think almost like we were talking about, when you have people that are so driven and motivated, and you have Andy yelling at you saying, don't be a little bitch. Like, I think that's where we can slide into where we give ourselves no grace. And then, I don't want to say burnout, but, you know, certainly you can get to a point where you're not seeing both sides anymore. And that's where I kind of got to the last few years, very in that masculine driven, like go, go, go. And recently it's been, and we're laughing, I've been delving in the woo a little bit. I'm like, okay, I need to also harness this sort of feminine energy and benefits of emotions and different things like that, so that you have the perfect balance. Like you were talking about, the yin and the yang, the both sides of things. You can't be all one or the other. Neither is perfect in its own. They only work when they work them together. And
it's not even sustainable if we don't, right? We have to have that other thing. And it's almost not so much about like a static balance, because people think that once I'm balanced, like I'm static, and then when the wind blows, they fall down. It's more about the idea of, no, I need to learn how to adapt, which means, like you were saying, you were going hard on this side, coming back over here, that gives us the ability to be in this in between.
Yeah.
But understand that we are in it, and understand that we have control of what that may be. If we're in this place where, again, when I was coaching fighters, like, you can always yell at them to go harder, but like that's the minimum requirement of a junior high football coach. Like, go harder, push harder. Anybody can say that.
Yeah.
But understanding when to do it. And again, having almost phases or having seasons, so to speak, where it's like, listen, I've got a project, or I'm releasing this book, or I'm releasing the apparel brand, or I'm trying to get to this thing before the end of the year. When we understand that there is like this like short time frame,
Yeah.
now that allows us to say, okay, I'm going to be sprinting my face off for the next 60 days. But once I'm there, I can actually take a break. And now it's easier. So like the Tabata protocol, right?
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, go to
Oh, I
Tabata
love
timer and you're going 20 seconds as hard as you can with burpees or burpee pull-ups or anything that sucks. And then you take 10 seconds off. To maintain that intensity for an hour, you can't. Because if you are, then you're not actually pushing the way you should be. You're
Right.
holding back. But if you're like, listen, I have a 4-minute, and it's only a 4-minute workout,
4
right?
minutes. Yeah. 8
So if
times.
so if you're in your room at traveling and you're like, oh, I can't do anything, do Tabata burpees and you'll get some work in. But the idea is knowing that it's only for a short period of time makes you give everything that you have. So if I can get 9 burpees in that first set, I try to get 9 burpees the entire time.
Yeah.
And so I'm not trying to just say, well, I think I can do 7, so it'll be easier. No, I push as hard as I can that first round and I try to maintain that. Even if I fail, the idea is to have that intention. So we want to, the reach should always exceed our grasp, but we need to have that idea. Just like when we punch something, if I have a target, I don't punch to it, I punch through it. I have to have that intention of going beyond it. That gives me full commitment. So when I connect, I actually do what I'm supposed to do. There are many fighters that will have good technique and maybe they'll throw the punch and they'll connect, but because they don't believe in it, they don't set their weight into it and they don't give that kind of follow through. And the idea is in everything that we're trying to do, anything we're trying to hit, any target, you have to give that sort of intention. Even if you miss, you're still reinforcing the idea of giving everything that you have. There's one level of commitment and that's total. Anything outside of that, you're fucking lying to yourself.
I love that. And that's why I think I love, Tabata. I love CrossFit. I love all that stuff. It's like, go real hard, now rest. Now go real hard and rest. And I recently gave a speech on high energy lifestyle and found out it is CrossFit and HIIT. And that like energize you as a high energy lifestyle because it's the go hard, now rest, now go hard and rest, which oddly aligns with my heart condition. So no wonder I was sort of drawn to it once I figured it out. Like I can go hard as long as I give myself a second to rest, and then I can go hard and give myself a second to rest.
And that's everything. And that's, again, it's like anything else. When we have that idea of, we talk about, Parkinson's law, this idea that the amount of time that I allow for something, the work will just naturally fall into that. So if you give somebody 3 weeks to get something done, they will drag their feet until the last week and then get it done.
Yep.
But if you say, I need it by Friday and it's a Monday, magically they get it done because what? There's a metric, there's a deadline, and they understand they have to get it done. But again, once they're done, there can be rest there.
Yeah.
So you can say, listen, if you work hard for this week, you can have all next week off. Holy shit, as if by magic, they're willing to do that. But if it's like, it takes 2 weeks, they'll just magically go really slow.
Oh yeah.
And they won't get it done.
Oh yeah. I'm the worst at that. I need a hard deadline and I will still probably wait till 2 days before that deadline before I start. But that's where the magic happens.
And that's why it's a deadline.
And that's why it's better for me. Those people that do these long, meticulous projects all planned. I'm like, damn, dude, how do you do that? I lose all kinds of interest in this. Let's just go and be done.
When at the event that I went to with Jocko at the, it was the leadership council last year. There were people that were saying, how do I go fast? Because I'm going through these things that are slow. It was like, think of it as an iterative idea. So you had this long block of whatever it is, but if we break it into 8, like a Tabata, and now we attack this thing as hard as we can with the iteration, and now reflect. Now for the next one, we go hard. We try to go through it quickly. So you have this long iteration, but you're doing it so quickly.
Yeah.
That it gives you the ability to get that data really, really honestly in real time. And now that allows you to push further on. So once you're done with it, again, it's aggressive patience. It's having that everything you have to get it done. The other part is, like I was saying before, if we aren't used to pushing really hard, when something happens in our lives when we have to, we're unconditioned to it and it feels impossible and it overwhelms us. But if we are used to continually giving everything that we possibly can to whatever it is that's worth doing,
Yeah.
that becomes our default setting. And now we can even be honest with ourselves. It's like, I'm pushing hard. I've got more. Here's the other thing. Adversity will be in our lives no matter what. So if you think you're pushing hard right now, imagine that somebody in your family is in the hospital and they're dying and you have to drive all night to get there. You're not going to just say, well, I had a good life with them. No, you're going to find a way to find a higher gear. And guess what? There are many gears even above that, depending on the level of adversity that you face. Bruce Lee said there are no levels, there are only plateaus, and we must push beyond them. So even when it feels like you've never been to a certain point before, accept that, take a breath, make the decision, commit, and you'll be surprised at where you can go. And you just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, that's one of my favorite real life examples is when you and I started working together and I did my first 3-day fast.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it was like a year ago. And I was like on day 3, I was up at work. You're like, how you doing? I'm like, oh, my stomach, I'm kind of hungry. I'm tired. I just can't wait till I can eat tomorrow. And you're like, okay, cool. Are you going in the gym? I'm like, yeah, but I'm probably going to go real light because, I don't want to pass out or have any of these issues. You're like, well, what's the workout? I'm like, I don't know, some kind of heavy lift and blah, blah, blah. And maybe I'll just do the barbell. And you're like, no, you're going to go in there and you're going to PR that lift. I'm like, no way am I going to PR the lift. I'm like, weak. I haven't eaten in 3 days. Like, what are you talking about? You're like, go PR that fucking lift.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, sure. I'm going to go PR this lift. And, something I've been doing for 10 years, but now's going to be the time. And holy crap, if I didn't go in there and just take off all the considerations, even if it was just to make you wrong, like, see, I can't do it. And then I was like, oh my God, I actually freaking did it. And it's little things like that where you're like, had I not pushed myself, had you not pushed me, I never would have known how much I was actually capable of and how much we limit ourselves based off of our mind or what we think or preconceived or being safe or responsible, like not pushing ourselves to the point where there's so much more mentally and physically that we have that we do not ever tap into.
And when we're at that place where we've achieved something big like that, now we look back and say, where else am I holding back? Where am I under indexing?
Yeah.
And that's when we have to use those decisions and say, well, what else am I not happy with? What else am I pissed off about? The other thing is understanding that the adversity that we face continues to come back until we learn the lesson.
Ugh,
right?
Boy,
There's only 2 ways to do it, right?
Yeah.
2 ways to deal with adversity correctly and again. And it keeps coming back. And even if we push it away, there's this analogy in a book that's called Already Free. And he says that when you have something in front of you, if you push it away, you can push it to the side, but it's still going to be there. And the more I push, eventually what happens is I'm not pushing it away. I'm just allowing my entire existence to revolve around this one thing that I did not have the courage to step into and deal with. Adversity is the same way. If I just keep trying to push it away and then walk around it, I'm literally tiptoeing around this thing. It's the elephant in the room that I build my life around. And then I don't know what it's like for it to not even exist. And we have that choice every single moment of our lives, if we're honest. But if we're not willing to do that, everything gets bigger than what it needs to be. Even when we don't have adversity in our life, if we don't go out and choose it, it's going to come for us. We have to go out and seek it in some capacity. And it can be small adversities, micro adversities every day.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, the fast. I did the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge that first year, and I fasted the whole time. People are like, that's not even physically possible. Like the running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours wasn't the thing that got people, but it was like, you can't do it and not, what are you consuming? Water and breath. That was it.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's not possible. Well, you and I understand.
Yeah.
I'm a low carb guy. That's what our bodies were kind of designed to do.
Yeah.
And we were designed to go days at a time without killing an antelope or whatever it was. And we had to, when we had that push, I have to get this thing. Like I have to sprint for this thing. This is my only chance with your PR.
Yeah.
To be in that place, it's like a magical place of like, I've never been here before.
Yeah.
What can I really do? And then you PR'd it. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And then of course, I had to 3-day fast twice after that. And it was like nothing. I mean, shoot, this year I think I'm going to go for a 5-day.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'll do it
Yeah.
with you.
My one of the ladies I worked with recently, she told me she did a 21-day fast.
Wow.
I was like, dang, I don't know if I'm ready for all of that. 21 days. She's like, and I kept working. I kept doing everything I was doing, but it just created this, like, you just go into different gears, different mental spaces. You work through so much adversities, physically, mentally, that it ends up being like this cleansing.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And even in 3 days, what do we understand? Like, we see where most of our eating is habitual.
Yep.
If you're working in the office and then you get up to, walk down to pee or to get some coffee or some water, and you happen to walk by food.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I'm already over here. And now it's like a habit. It's a trigger. For us, what you and I do when we fast is we load up that docket where there's really not very much time.
Yeah.
And now, instead of me sitting here having a moment to sulk or even believe that I'm hungry. And here's the other part. Again, it comes back to acceptance.
Yeah.
Once I commit and say, I'm just not eating.
Yeah.
The only time it actually is hard is when I'm trying to negotiate with a terrorist in my mind that says, well, you could have some of this. Technically, it won't break your fast. It's like, okay, is it food? Then no.
Yeah.
It
Or
can
you
be,
have other people in your head like, oh, why you want to do that?
hey,
You
we're
don't
going
need
out
to do
tonight
that.
for so-and-so's birthday.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
Why aren't you eating? Oh, I'm just going to drink water because I'm fasting. Oh, I see how it is. And then all of a sudden you get into this. If you allow that to drag you in, you can.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, again, the fasting is important for so many different reasons. But even with us, 3 to 5 days, that does all of the benefits that we need. Going longer just to go longer, I think it's good to push on occasion. But 3 to 5 days for most of us is fantastic. And again, we're not doctors and we're not trying to play any on the.
Nope. We're not recommending
on the
this to
internet.
anyone.
But again, if you're a person that has trouble with blood pressure, person with inflammation, a person that has trouble with blood sugar levels, it's something that you can do to keep you really honest. And it also helps you understand, I don't need to be stuffing my face with stuff every 2 or 3 hours necessarily.
Right. Well, and I realized my relationship with food, all of a sudden, like if I'm having a bad day, I'm like thinking about dinner and like, then you realize you're not having dinner. You're like, oh shit, I just got to go through this. There's no comfort at the end of this rainbow or day. So let's just get ourselves through it. And it really taught me to realize my relationship with food and how to get myself through emotional situations without having that. Even though I was strictly keto and I was only eating one time a day, I would still be thinking about that dinner at night or whatever it is. And that provided comfort. Not being able to mentally provide that comfort got me to learn how to create that within myself.
That's it. And what does that do? Now that sets the stage for anything else that you decide to do.
Yeah.
And it shows us that once we're committed, we can do pretty much anything. The other thing is when we lead from that place courageously, it empowers other people around us. If you're going through adversity, it will break you entirely, but it will break you so that when you build up, it shows the people around you that they can do it too. And I'm not talking about people that try to one up each other with hardship. I'm not talking about that bullshit because that's toxic.
Yeah.
But I've met people that have seen me speak and they're like, wow, I've gone through stuff and it wasn't what you went through. But some of them had gone through like horrendous things that in my opinion were worse than what I had gone through.
Yeah.
So it was this idea of understanding that adversity binds us. If we're willing to have that empathy and actually care about the people around us, it doesn't have to divide us. But when we're doing it together, again, when you do like your group workouts with your teams here, right?
Yeah.
Like that breeds that camaraderie, that tribe. We're sweating and bleeding together. It's almost, you're mimicking war. And that's what brings people together because you have this common enemy, and the common enemy that you're trying to destroy is mediocrity. Yeah.
Yeah. God, and I love that. That's why I love CrossFit. That's why I love working out together, because it is like that. And that's what creates those bonds. And then, what'll get me even more is a partner workout, because I'll push harder because I don't want to let my partner down. And I don't want to be the person where they're going hard and I'm holding them back. So I push myself even harder if I'm in a partner workout, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, it's that iron sharpens iron, and that's the tide that rises all boats. And then it's impossible to not win. If we're leading from that place and if we base our success on the success of the people around us, they elevate, and then they allow us to come up to an even higher level in the process. So again, now it's like win upon win. Adversity has like gravity. It has like momentum, but so does victory, so does support, so does love. And if we can be aware of that and stop the momentum of the negative stuff and say, wait, I'm going to step back, take a breath here, be real honest. And where do I want to go? And now when we lean into that, again, we bring that around us, just like with my great uncle, where it was like, if you focus on the hardship, that's all you're going to see.
Yeah.
If you focus on the goal or the opportunity, that's what you're going to see. And Ed has taught us about the reticular activating system and how it goes through, and the blue car syndrome, where you look for a blue car, you see them everywhere. But that's what we do with our lives. If we look for opportunities to help people, a problem to solve as an entrepreneur, then we can recognize it. Also, when we go through hardship, go through some sort of adversity, it's easier for us to smell it on other people. And now we've been in their shoes. And now I've had people say that when they read the book, they're like, it's like you were in my head. I'm like, yeah, because that was what's going through my head.
Right.
And if we find the right people that are resonating with the message, you can answer those questions for them. It's called straw manning. And you go through and you're like, okay, well, almost like a devil's advocate. Or once I was at this place, the thing that I say in the first book is this idea that the hardship for most of us is not the thing that we're going through. It's being in a place afterwards when we are no longer able to do those things, when we no longer have the luxury of deciding I'm going to go hard. So for me, having my physicality taken away from me, being paralyzed from the neck down at 40 years old, looking at my life, looking at everybody else at 40, got a family, white picket fence, a successful job. They've been in there for a long time. And I have nothing. I was suicidal, but I couldn't even act on it because of my physicality. So when you're in that place and there's no other option, you have to look in. And I went through denial for a long time. I went through anger for a long time, but I was angry at me. And the definition of like depression is anger that's directed inwards. So once I realized that's not serving me and I let that shit go, again, I let that go. That allowed me to have this other part, which was the understanding that, did anybody benefit from me being hurt? And it's like, no. It's like, wait a minute, anybody. If I'd have been in Afghanistan when I was injured, for every one man that's hurt in battle, it takes two to pull him to safety. So that means if we'd have been in Afghanistan, my team would have been compromised. Another team would have had to cover down. Another squad would have had to cover down. A big Chinook would have had to come in, a big helicopter that's a big target. In other words, I would have put 50 to 100 other people's lives in danger had that happened. And when I did that, it was like, holy shit, I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Not that I was lucky, but I was grateful that nobody else was hurt. And that's what real gratitude is. When you can be grateful that something happened, even though it did not have a direct positive impact on you, that's what it's about. And that's when we can actually start doing a lot of powerful things.
Yeah, I love that. And I always do that, like maybe not the gratitude, but I'm always looking for the lesson. Even like when I missed my flight, I'm like, well, why did I miss it? Wait, was it this, that? And you're like, well, maybe you just missed it. And I'm like, no, there's got to be a deeper meaning of why I missed this flight. I was literally right there. How did I do this? Because I think like you, I'm trying to figure out, what am I supposed to get out of this? Whether this happens for a reason, like help me, understand this, or being grateful for that happening, because something else happened, which a lot of times we can't see that until later. Like we don't have that hindsight until it's literally behind us. And then we can like go, oh, shoot, there you go.
And if we can be disciplined to have the hindsight now, that keeps us honest. Most of the time, just like you said, with adversity, we can't see the gift in it when we're going through it. But we can have like gallows humor, like in the military, we're like, I can't, we're going to be laughing about this later.
Yeah.
Or you don't have to like it. You just have to do it. You're doing a 25-mile ruck march with 100 pounds on your back. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
Like there's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
But we don't have the option of not going. So if that's the case, man up, suck it up, put on your boots and let's go.
Yeah. And change how you go through it. Like I think about David Goggins, and he's just like laughing out there in the water, and making a joke out of it. It's like, you're already going to go through it. So why be miserable? Like make fun of it in a way so that it's not so hard and the time goes by faster and it's less painful. It's more enjoyable, and it ends up being a good thing in the process as opposed to after the fact. That's
it. And humor will save us.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked to Rich Devaney about that with humor and how you need that funny guy. Yeah. In his book, The Attributes You Have Over There, he tells a story about there's those guys that are in the surf and they're getting like, surf tortured, and they're all like locked up and they're all like, the SEAL instructors are drinking coffee and they've got their jackets on and these guys are freezing and miserable. And they were like, hey, the first person that rings that bell, you guys get donuts.
Yeah.
And the guy that was laying down next to him was like, he got glazed. If you don't have glaze, I'm not doing it. And it was just like, again, like that breaks the tension. And now it stops the momentum of that adversity.
Yeah.
Humor is great at that.
Mm,
And in a lot of ways, that's what it does.
yeah.
Because humor gives us the illusion of safety, at least in that moment.
Yeah. I know even with people I've had on my team, I've had reasonableness with the people that could make me laugh because I kept them around because they freaking made me laugh. And it made me develop blind spots because they brought a levity to situations. And so I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I love having people around me that make me laugh, but I've gone to the extreme where it's actually blinded me as well because I'm prone to that kind of person.
Also, even like if we look at philosophy, if we look at logic, Stoics, Greek philosophy, like basic logic, it's very like analytical. You're taking the emotion out of it, blah, 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 blah. What I love about Zen and Taoism is lots of times they'll say stuff that just is completely like turns it inside out and almost makes fun of the problem or the question because that forces you to look at it from an alternate angle, which in and of itself can be enlightening, which can give you the answer that you're seeking. Lots of times where we're just kind of beating our head against the wall. It's like, can we go around this? Can we crawl over it? Can we go under it? Is this wall even worth going through? Understanding that we don't have to just be a hero towards something that's not worthy of it, which again, for you, like now that you're attacking everything with this sort of intention, the things that are actually worth it, all the big stuff, if we can just focus on those 2 or 3 things, all the small stuff below it takes care of itself once we've done that. But until we're willing to do that and we start to do all these like smaller things, thinking that we're, getting something accomplished, we're just kidding ourselves.
Would you say that it's harder times, and I will say it is, society is almost pushing towards not having humor, because if it's humor, it's at someone's expense, which means you're offending somebody, which means therefore there should be no humor. It kind of feels that way because like I was out recently with at this other thing and the guy had a couple of his teammates and they were just making fun of each other. They were telling jokes. They were just being like this. And I'm like, oh, I miss the days that we used to be like that. But now, we have to be so cautious and careful because we don't want to upset or offend anybody. And even if they're in our vicinity and hearing us talk has nothing to do with them, could be offended by my conversation way over here. So it's just, it just like, it starts to seem like this sucks. Like we're not allowed to have fun anymore either, or humor, because somebody could get upset by this.
And we see that symptomatology throughout all of society, right? Like, if we stop the human emotion of humor from being available, it's like, what are we doing? Like humor is that pressure release valve.
Yeah.
Humor is that thing that makes us, again, it gives you permission to relax. The political correctness, how many comedians do we see? When I saw Bill Burr in Tulsa, he was just like ripping on us. He's like, this is what I think about. He's like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but this is what I think people in Oklahoma are about. And then like, he would just go through like all these hilarious stereotypes. And he's like, and I'm not even going to tell you guys because I know in some places I need to make sure these are jokes and you guys can understand the difference. He's like, the fact that I even have to say that.
Put in a disclaimer before even like sharing. Yeah.
Or Joe Rogan says it. It's like, we don't have to do that. And what we allow is what will continue.
Yeah.
So around the people that we are around, if we can, let's go ahead and do that. And people are like, well, you can't make fun of somebody. I can make fun of myself.
Yeah.
I can say whatever the hell I want about myself, about my haircut, my lack of haircut, whatever it is, my compensatory facial hair for my haircut because I don't have any hair, like whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
We can absolutely do that. And in that way, if you're afraid that you're going to offend somebody, that's fine. I'm not afraid to jump on the grenade to allow other people to have that safety, because especially when things are tough, that's when we need it the most.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when you need that levity. That's where you release that dopamine and those feel good emotions, as you can, like you said, let the pressure valve off. Like we can't be so gosh darn serious about everything.
We can't. And we see what happens when we don't.
Yeah.
Like everybody that's serious all the time, now everything is tragic. Now everything is a crisis. Now everything is at stake. It's like, it's really not.
Yeah.
If you bleed into the illusion of it, if you listen to what the scare tactics and the catastrophizing that people do, then but that doesn't serve us. I don't need to watch every event as it unfolds in real time. I can just stay away from that stuff. And if it's something that's really important, and again, if I'm a doctor or if I'm like doing stocks or like that kind of stuff, I understand I have to be aware of that. But for what I do, for what you do, the most important thing for us is the immediate people that we're working with. That's the priority.
Yeah.
Not whatever latest, like political bullshit that's going on or whatever things they're trying to push on us. And again, if you've been alive for more than 10 years, you can see that there is a lot of bullshit that's surrounding that stuff, where the people that are trying to feed you this information benefit from it in some capacity. And if you're not sure about that, even on social media, like all these people that are virtue signaling, like it's called a platform for a reason. And when you put somebody on a platform, they are encouraged to perform. So if you had two people that are like flaming each other on a Twitter war, and then you say, why don't you guys sit down in person and say that same shit? By the way, it's not going to be televised. All of a sudden, a lot of that steam leaves the room. But if they realize that everybody in the world can see what's going on and can comment and can put in their 2 cents on it, that encourages the behavior. Hawthorne's law says what is observed is changed by observation. So again, that's where accountability comes in. Or if they think, I have a following, I have this, and these people expect this from me, maybe you're doing it wrong. Maybe you're allowing them, maybe you're allowing the tail to wag the dog, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's not going to allow you to find anything authentic or true.
Yeah. I do hope that pendulum swings back a little bit.
It's
though.
beginning to.
You think so?
It's beginning to. It's to the point now where I think that people are doing everything they can to stop it, which, just like you, if you're trying to stop something like that, or if you tell Angie she can't do it, she's going to PR that shit.
God damn. I need another PR. I gotta get back in that gym.
We're going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. All right. So tell our listeners where they can find you, what you're working on, and what's going on in your life.
They can find me on all the interwebs. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. They can go to marcusaureliusanderson.com to find out more. The podcast, which you were on as well, is called Octa Non Verba. It's Latin for actions, not words, which is very much in line with everything that we're talking about here. My second book is going to be called Octa Non Verba. It will be out later on this year. And then I'm working on an apparel line with Ryan Williams from Industry Fed Works. And I'm trying to create this idea of Octa Non Verba, this mentality of taking action. And it'll have everything from quotes to just graphics. But when I talked to him, he was making a comment. He was saying that he enjoyed that I was approaching this as a business and having small iterations and figuring out what I wanted. The idea is so many people now are trying to make a quick buck, or they're going to do a big batch of this stuff, print on demand type stuff. And it's made in China, and a lot of it's kind of junk. What we're doing is stuff that's going to be here, made in the United States.
That's nice. Yeah.
It will actually be something that has substance behind it. It'll have backbone. It'll have purpose. And then when you wear that shirt, just like with an Arte shirt, like if you claim that your Arte means excellence. So if you're wearing an Arte shirt and then you see yourself in the mirror and you're slacking, or you're thinking about not doing that workout, hopefully that's the thing that like signals you to make it happen. The same thing with Arte, like that's what we're doing with the Octa Non Verba mentality is, I don't want you to buy my shit unless you're going to actually do stuff.
Right.
So if you're doing awesome stuff, buy this gear, and that will encourage you to continue doing it, whether you're working out, whether you're going out, helping people on the street, whatever it is. But if you're not willing to do that, please don't buy it.
I love that. You're not allowed to buy it.
Your guys are not allowed to
and
do
if
it.
I see you wearing it and you're slacking.
If I see you, exactly. I'm coming for you guys.
I love that. Okay, one last question. Were you a latchkey kid too?
Oh yeah.
I felt like you were. I'm like, I
Geez.
can tell that we are the
Absolutely.
same. Yeah.
Yeah. My parents were divorced when I was 8. So from 8 to 13, like you said.
Yeah.
Get home as fast as you can. Lock that thing up. There's food in the fridge. Do your homework or watch TV.
But see, you went the right way. I went the wrong way.
Well, I mean, yeah.
You can see we had the same scenario, and we each took a different path there,
Yep.
but we both ended up here.
We
today.
came here exactly,
I
right?
know.
So there's
Look
a
at
lot
that.
of many paths to the top of the mountain, as Musashi would say.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, coming to see the facility.
I loved it. Thank you for letting me do it. Thank you for taking me on that incredible walk. Your facility is amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
When I think of rehab facilities, I think of like these very like cold, there's not a whole lot of like connection.
Clinical.
Yeah, clinical. And it's like a bunch of people that are just miserable and hate their lives. And when we're driving up and I just see these 33 acres of this property that just looks over like all this majesty, even today, even though it was like, you know, a little bit wet or rainy, it's like, it's just gorgeous out there. And you've got, you know, deer, and you've got turkeys, and you got all this stuff out there. And it's
Yeah.
like, it takes you away from all that stuff.
Yeah.
All the BS that tempts us. And now you have these people together that are coming together with this commonality of getting better, of recovering. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, and you can tell, like, when you're up there, it's meant for recovery and peace. Like, you're not being tempted by the liquor store down the street, or, you know, just all this stuff. I know other rehabs, like our locations are just, they let you be in the best possible
Yes.
space to really just work on you, which I think is really key.
Again, that creates that space, right?
Yeah.
And when we allow that space, if you think about anything that you've ever done in your life where you have like an epiphany, it doesn't happen in the middle of it. It happens when you're getting out of the shower. It happens when you're walking to your vehicle. It happens in between things. And if we allow that in between space to be expanded, it allows more opportunities for us to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. 33 acres will do that for you.
It absolutely, especially in California.
Yeah. I mean, Tahoe's pretty sweet too. You can't knock Tahoe. I mean,
didn't say
it
what.
backs up to a national forest. It's no big deal, but yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Cool.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Good job.
Did you do any video of us, April?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I got some video, I got some pictures, and I figured out this creek that it was something I just adjusted here.
Oh, for the microphone?
My-
Ah,
Noise.
look at you. Look
It was
at you.
just a little, I was like, oh my God, that's what it is.
Nice.